Hello everybody, Cacti and Carnivores here, and today we're going to be taking a look at my Venus Flytrap cross seedlings here. So I'm going to admit a lot has happened since last time. It's been about like 3 or so months, if I recall correctly, so a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is stuff that happened like months ago. So it's going to be kind of hard, but I'll try my best here. So basically last time, the thing that was troubling the seedlings was the fungus gnats, and I believe the parts per million in the water was starting to spike up a little. And what I said what I was going to do to combat that was to use mosquito dunks and washing the soil out every once in a while once it started to go up again, and get the runoff down to about 10 parts per million. And for a while that worked pretty well. They were starting to resume regular growth, and they were actually doing pretty well for a little bit. But once I started to take my attention off of them and kind of be confident that they were doing fine, problems started to come up again. As a matter of fact, the parts per million in the soil and the runoff was actually reaching like ridiculous levels. Like, I remember one time I took a read and it was around 500, which is just way too much for any carnivorous plant. And not only that, but mold started to grow upon the surface of the peat moss, and it started to overtake a couple plants. And it was a really weird mold too. It wasn't like a gray mold or a fuzzy kind of mold. It was like, if you can see right here, it was like this sort of fuzzy, kind of looks like Parmesan cheese almost, if you can see that just a little bit. So it's growing in here, but this one's fine. But yeah, it was just getting all over the seedlings. And after discussing it with some people on the forums, I kind of took a look at the situation, and it's like the peat moss is releasing these like chemicals or like organic materials that are breaking down and being released into the soil. The mold's kind of growing on it, which that's what peat moss kind of allows. And as a matter of fact, I believe there were some fungus gnats that came and started to do what they do. Not a lot, it was only like a couple, but they were still there. And fungus gnats, as a matter of fact, can only grow in peat moss. So I was looking at this, and I found the root of the problem just to be the peat moss. And so I basically decided just to say, alright, screw it, and I repotted them in chopped sphagnum moss. I chopped it up because it's a bit easier to work with as more of a media. Long fibered sphagnum moss is fine for like any adult plant, but when you're dealing with really small seedlings, it's quite difficult to wrap a whole fiber around it. Yeah, so I repotted them all. The peat moss is only around a year old, which I might be too much, but I wasn't watering all too much, and I was keeping it at like an even moisture. So it wasn't being waterlogged to the point where it would degrade down faster. So that was quite odd. But there's some good news and bad news to this. Bad news is that only 2 have survived. If you look here, it's quite obvious. This was the biggest one. I think if you go to the last video, I pointed out the biggest one last time, and that's that same one. As you can see, if I can, right here, it's doing very well. It's like the biggest, it was the biggest out of all of them. And then there's just a little one right here, barely survived, 2 really pale green leaves, if you can see that. Yeah, but on the bright side is that they're doing well. This one is done as like good as it's ever been. You got all this new growth coming out, and it's really took off. It's taken off a little while. And this one, it looks okay, but it'll probably pick up too. So basically, what I've taken from this is that it's fine to start Venus flytrap seedlings and a lot of other carnivorous plant seedlings. It's fine to start them in peat moss, and there's benefits to it. I think I prefer it as opposed to the sphagnum moss. But within like a year or so, it makes more sense to repot them and really like make sure when they start declining and the peat moss is getting old, just switch them out, and they'll probably do better. I don't know why I have that problem. It might be the quality of the peat moss. To be fair, I did get it from Walmart, and although it's lasted a while, like it's proven to have worked, I might need a better product, so I'll look into that. And who knows, I might even start some more seedlings on sphagnum moss to begin with. And I've done it for cuttings, and it's worked way better. It's very antifungal compared to peat. Peat likes to grow loads of nasty stuff on the surface. The only thing that really comes from sphagnum moss is a lot of algae, and that's only if you water a lot. And some weeds, but you know, you just get some tweezers and you pick them up. Yeah, so that's pretty much all that's happened up until this point. Quite a ride, but they do seem to be doing better, and like actually better, and not like good for a little bit and then more things happen. But before we end this video, I've been experimenting with this magnifying glass, and as a matter of fact, I'm able to get some really good macro shots if I put it up against the camera lens. Yeah, so in a little bit, I'm going to be able to get a really good look at these guys. Alright, here they are. Well, here's one of them close up. See if I can get... Wow. So that's the newest trap that's come up. Oh, there we go. If I go in too quickly, the whole thing unfocuses. Yeah, so as you can see, a lot of traps are coming out at a quicker pace. So this one's doing good. The smaller one, where is he? Can't find it. Oh, okay, sorry. The smaller one right here. Looks really... not a lot, but it's something.